PowerServe 3D Tennis was one of only 2 games published by British company Ocean Software for the PlayStation in North America, though several more Ocean published games later launched for the PS1 in Europe. Ocean has a lot in common with infamous American publisher LJN. Both companies produced a ton of licensed crap based on films, TV shows, and cartoons in the 80s and 90s, though Ocean mostly stuck to releasing games for home computers like the Commodore 64 and the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. While a lot of Ocean's licensed games were terrible, its computer ports of arcade games like Renegade and Rainbow Islands are apparently pretty well regarded overseas. Of course, if you were a Nintendo fan in the United States back then, you probably know Ocean as the publisher of awful Super Nintendo games like Lethal Weapon, Cool World, and Dennis the Menace. PowerServe 3D Tennis doesn't feature real-world players or tennis courts, but it's every bit as bad as the licensed disasters that made Ocean Software infamous. I'm not gonna mince words here, this game is trash. It's not like tennis games were all that great back then either. 16-bit tennis games had barely progressed beyond the simple mechanics found in Nintendo's Tennis for the 8-bit Nintendo Entertainment System. Aside from some standouts like Super Tennis for the Super NES and World Court Tennis for the TurboGrafx-16, the genre was pretty much stagnant up until the release of Sega's Virtua Tennis in the late 90s. In other words, PowerServe 3D Tennis had low standards to meet, and it still failed in every regard. It's really difficult to hit the ball, and while the 3D characters are large and somewhat detailed, they animate strangely, and it's hard to move them with any degree of accuracy since they slide around a lot. There's also a 2-player mode, which is pretty much unplayable by default. The player on the opposite side of the court actually has their controls reversed. You push left on the D-pad to move right, and right moves left. It makes no sense. If you want to make the game any less than completely unfair in 2-player mode, you basically have to enter a secret code to enable a split-screen mode, so that player 2 doesn't have to use reversed controls. To do that, you need to pause the game and then press select. This feature isn't documented in the game itself, so if your copy doesn't include an instruction manual, you might never know about it. So are there any redeeming qualities in PowerServe 3D Tennis? Well, it has some really bizarre player names, I guess. Here you can see Julia Cappuccino teaming up with Bart Sunrise. What? And then there's the music, which... Here, listen. I'm also a fan of the doubles mode here. Since players don't have any collision detection, you can just kinda mash them together and create ungodly freaks of nature. You have to make your own kind of fun in this game, I guess. For real though, you have no reason to ever play this thing. So that's the PlayStation Sports lineup at launch. One game that showcases the PlayStation's ability to deliver accurate arcade ports, and another that's emblematic of the kind of low-effort crap that would flood the market in the console's later years. I gotta admit, there's a certain kind of beauty in this tiny microcosm representing the PlayStation's legacy. Yeah, beauty. That's the word for it. With that out of the way, next time we'll look at Rayman, a great 2D platformer and savior of what's now one of the biggest video game publishers in the world. We won't cover any more terrible sports sims for a while yet, so feel free to subscribe if you want to see some much better PS1 games over the next few weeks. See you next episode.